Good afternoon, everyone. I will be presenting today my comprehensive market analysis and development recommendations for Fair Oaks Mall site in Fairfax, Virginia. So first, we start by examining the plot. The mall sits on a 109 acres of land that I'm highlighting here in red. This looks like an avocado-shaped plot. The building itself, it's also irregular, maybe more of a star-shaped building. We have a 1,850,000 square foot of gross leasable area. These are distributed on a two-level enclosed mall building type. We have a 10,800 parking spaces. These are distributed, the vast majority of these are distributed all around the site based on a surface parking. We have a limited amount of structured parking, which is a building that is housing a covered parking spots. The mall currently is owned by Ocean Properties. One of the most strategic aspects of the site is its adjacency and connectivity to interstate I-66, which can connect the site to other states, and Route 50, which is also a very important highway to connect to other counties and other areas. As I said, these two corridors are strategically important to connect the site to other areas, mainly other states and Washington, D.C., and other counties within Fairfax. So on a macro level and the regional connectivity level, the two most important strategic destinations we have around the site is first Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. We're 20 miles west of Washington, D.C., and we're 11 miles away from Dulles International Airport. That translates to 25 to 30 minutes in light traffic, 50 to 60 minutes in heavier traffic from DC, and 20 minutes in light traffic and 35 to 45 minutes in heavier traffic away from the airport. Now, from strategic level, the site is located within the Washington, Arlington, and Alexandria's metropolitan statistical area. The importance of that is that this is one of the nation's highest income, most educated, and most stable labor markets. That gives us a solid foundation for any real estate markets, as we can see in later sections. One of also the most important adjacencies is that the site is surrounded by major employment nodes such as Fairfax Government Center, which is right across the street, Innova Fair Oaks Hospital, George Mason's University. So in order to rationalize such a massive investment within that huge mall site during the 1980, we have to look at the era preceding the 1980 opening. As we can see here, the population within the county exponentially grew between the 1950 and the 1980. That came directly after World War II ending. We saw a huge job growth driven by the expansion of the federal agencies. We saw a huge infrastructure investment, especially in Route 50 and Interstate 66. It's not mentioned here, but also within that period, we saw an increased car ownership within the household, generally across the nation. So we have a great accessibility to the site now, and those economical conditions, I believe, rationalize such a huge investment. So after the mall's opening, the nation was hit by two recessions. The developers kept going. They believed in the demand, and rightfully so. We had strong leasing coming back in the mid-80s. We had a strong performance during the 80s, 90s, 2000s up to 2010. the mall performed very well until e-commerce, Amazon, and online shopping came along. Now, recent performance of the mall showed in 2024 the landlord defaulted on a loan that signaled a red flag, and that signaled that things needs to change now because of the changing conditions. So it's fair to say that what is happening nowadays for Fair Oaks Mall is not an isolated case. Actually, it's the contrary. It's the rule. The majority of the enclosed malls within the US are facing the same set of circumstances. I would argue that the malls at a certain age and time presented a convenient solution for the consumers. However, nowadays you can order everything from furniture, from clothing, from food online. That has created a reduced demand for physical space, especially in the GAFO category, and that started having a lower footfall on the malls in general. So in terms of physical conditions, the site is more or less flat. We have more or less 20 feet variance and differences between certain points. We have a water retention issue. We have 2 ponds, one within the site and one is adjacent to the site. The county's report says that the quality of the water is substandard, and this needs to be addressed by any developer moving forward. In terms of flooding risk, as we can see here, the site is marked in green and it's away from the flood plain marked here within the official reports. So given the recent conditions the mall is going through, and given the strategic importance of the site and the magnitude and the size of the plot, the county initiated in 2020 rezoning and plan amendments to the site that encourages any developer to develop the site into a mixed-use site. That plan included a reduction in the overall retail area from 1.85 million square foot into 1.1 million square foot of retail, 1.2 million square foot of office, 470,000 square foot of hotel, and the vast majority is residential, which comes at 2 million square foot. The total development is proposed at 4.8 million square foot. Earlier to 2020, that was linked to a metro connection, which in 2020 they relaxed that requirement and said we can allow for a 4.8 million square foot and up to one far without a metro. However, more than that square foot, we will need a metro connection. That plan encouraged the replacement of the mall form into a more of a creation of walkable spaces, walk-ups, placemaking strategies to activate the site, hopefully on a 24-hour basis. So to start the analysis, I have allowed for the primary market area to be a 15-minute drive around the site and the secondary market area to be 30 minutes drive around away from the site. Now the main demand, or the 80% of the demand, would be drawn from the primary market area and the rest would come from the secondary. Now I must say that we have Tysons here. These can a little bit carve out some of these market areas. We have taken minus measures within the capture area, as we will see at later stages and later sections. However, these are the main two market areas we have allowed for. So in terms of demographic and economic profiling, we have good news. The county has over 1 million in population. These individuals and households are highly educated, they have high income, and they have a net worth that is significantly higher than the national average. The county also has over 550,000 jobs within the county. This is significantly higher than the other 11 counties within Virginia. This creates a very strong, stable, and significant demand base for the different real estate markets. Now, the official projections estimates that the county would add 112,000 jobs by 2030. I'm skeptical about that because of recent data allowing for or indicating a rising unemployment rates. Last year it was 3.7, this year is 4.8, and it's projected to be over 5 within the next year. So we have an alarming short-term unemployment or employment issues. The major employers within the county and around the site are Innova Health System, George Mason University, Capital One, Amazon, Freddie Mac, as well as federal agencies. In terms of office market, as we can see from CoStar's data, we have an oversupply. We have around 24% in vacancy rate, and this is projected to go forward in the future. We have a negative net absorption, as we can see. These indicate a very soft market and a limited market for office. We have also conversions and demolitions happening as well. So in terms of inventory and competition, many of the office inventory we have within the county are built before the 1990s. This presents an opportunity for us in order to build higher specs. In terms of competition, I can't think of a better competition than the Tysons. It's within the region. I really think because of the metro connections, because of its multi-use, this represents a challenge for Fair Oaks to attract tenants. However, we can compete with that in terms of connectivity to Interstate 66. We have lower cost per square foot for rent, and we have more proximity to medical and educational anchors such as George Mason and the Innova Hospital. We have huge parkings, and we hope that this would be enough to compete on the office side. So in order to use time more efficiently, I will go through the main points. First of all, I was able to calculate based on job growth a limited demand for the office. I was able to calculate 88,000 square foot for on a conservative basis on the short term, and 260,000 square foot on a more optimistic basis. I took an average of 175,000 demand capture, and I believe based on recent trends that the floor plates should not exceed 25,000 square foot, and we should aim for more flexibility and smaller size offices. So in terms of residential, we had two contradicting gauges. The first one is the vacancy rate. It's within the healthy range, and it will continue to go within the healthy range, while the absorption overall is -21 within the primary area based on CoStar. Now, if you zoom into the data, you would see that the 5 stars is having a positive net absorption. But however, I would say that generally we're seeing a minus net absorption and a normal vacancy that is maybe due to high uncertainty within the market right now, where people are delaying taking residential related decisions until conditions get better in the future. So in terms of competition, I took 3 comparables. First one is Vista, a Fairfax corner. It's right across the street. It's $3 per square foot. It's at least up very strongly, that can represent how much I or we can charge for a square foot. Scout on the circle, which is to the eastern side of the plot. It stabilized 93% really quickly. The Sully, which is on the other end, it had an excellent early absorption, and it had a very high auto-oriented location. So in terms of capture rate for the site, based on projections, we are projecting to have a 40,000 people population growth within 5 years. Divided by the household size, we would have more or less within 5 years a 40,500 households. If you divide that by 5 years, we would have 2,900 units each year based on demand for the whole county. Now, conservatively, and on a square foot proportionate basis, and having a minus 5% from competition regionally, we would end up with 680 units for the whole immediate site. I would say we would take 30% we can draw from that, and that's 200 units per year. So our full build out based on the zoning plan is around 2,000 units. That would require around 10 years. I would say phase one, because and which is in the next 5 years, will take 2 or 3 years to build, and then we can absorb around 500 units, between 400 and 600. Phase two is on average 600 units, and then the remainder is after in phase three, the full build out. So in retail, we can demand e-commerce is changing everything. However, and people are now more experience-based shoppers rather, and commerce come second. That's brick and mortar. However, that's a different case in the e-commerce. Now, in terms of spending, according to Esri, the primary market area has the highest spending on needs, goods and services, followed by F&B, and the least is GAFO. So the strongest demand is on daily needs and dining, and we need to highly curate that within our retail mix. As we can learn from the competition, we can see that the retail is breaking out of the box. We're more experience focused. We're more now mixed use oriented in terms of retail. It complements the community, and that should be the trend moving forward. So in terms of demand and capture rate, we believe that the site can accommodate 1.2 million square feet. These are divided by 700,000 for NG and S. F&B is 300,000, and the least is 20,000 for GAFO. And these should be focusing on experiential retail rather than a more traditional. We need to increase marketability. We need to increase competitive advantage of the site. So in terms of mixing out the uses within the site, first of all, we hope to get synergies out of these mixes. Mainly is getting the site more lively, creating an 18-hour site that feels more safe, more live for everyone. In terms of challenges, of course, noise and parking, the exhaust from retail. Now mitigating that would be separating them and clustering uses that are complementary, and just breaking away the residential aspect out of away from the noise emitting functions. So I'm proposing a 3 phases development. The first one, it takes 5 years. It's from 2025 to 2030. The main points of it is we would have a 500 residential units. We would have a street-like retail. However, I would use the same structure as the mall. We would do an adaptive reuse for the mall. We would keep the mall running, and then we would put all of the money within to allow for the placemaking infrastructure around the site. I would also use part of the mall to convert it into an office space. In phase 2, of course, at each stage we need to have a comprehensive market study to support the phasing for the next step. Within the next 5 years, we would focus on having an additional residential units, an additional office, and the major focus would be on we as a developer would get into a public-private partnership to establish the metro. That is critical for phase 3, and that would enhance the site. So in phase 1, we would make sure the infrastructure of the site would work, and phase 2, we would focus on getting the metro. And now phase 3, of course, would have a full build out, and it would take a 10 years period. So to illustrate, I have taken the diagram included within the conceptual framework within the county. I believe that diagram is too clear. It shows the different circulation paths. I'm now converting part of the mall to an office, which is located here. I would reposition and revamp the existing retail within the mall. I would add residential components here that you can see from the highway. I would start focusing on the public and placemaking and the landscape of the whole site. We need to activate the site. Within phase 2, I would add additional office here, and additional retail here. And now this area would be more noisy. I would add more clusters of retail here. As you can see, these are secondary circulation lines I'm not touching, I'm building with. And the most important part and the critical part is enabling the metro. Now it's a win-win situation for everyone to get the metro. I believe that investing heavily as a developer in the metro would yield more benefits to the site and to future phases. Lastly, of course, is the phase 3, and we would have a full build out for the whole site. We would have potentially a hotel here, and then the site would now be activated by the metro, and then that would be the whole phasing. Lastly, I really believe that the key success factor for the site is that it needs to create a true urban center of its own. We need to work on placemaking. We need to have top urban designers, landscape architects, and placemaking experts. Architects and structural engineers needs to be top-notch to allow flexibility of floor plans in order to allow future conversions. Thank you very much for your time.